Housing associations in Austria provide homes for 17% of the total population, although in cities like Vienna it is even higher. They provide usually permanent tenancies. Rents in the housing association sector are strictly regulated, and they are about a quarter lower than on the market. There's a special law in Austria which regulates housing associations, which is called the Limited Housing Profit Act, and that basically sets the business model for housing associations, which exempts them from corporation tax. At the same time, they have very strict rules and obligations of how they operate. But they are independent private organizations. Some of them are cooperatives, others are limited companies, so they might even issue shares. But it's called limited profit because the profits that housing associations can issue are limited by 3.5% of the capital that shareholders paid into that at the beginning of the housing association. Housing associations are independent organizations, but they receive subsidies. So most of what they build is done with public subsidies, mainly in the form of public loans. So, for example, a housing association would get a public loan at the rate of 1% over a period of 30 years. And they have to repay that, most of it, but that actually helps to build affordable housing. One key principle in the housing associations in Austria is the so-called cost rent, which means that whenever a housing association rents a property, they can only charge the amount that it costs to buy the land, to do the construction work, and do the maintenance of the property. So they're not allowed to charge anything above that, but they're also not allowed to charge anything below that. And that's the system of cost coverage, basically. It is obviously impossible to reproduce the legal system of what one country and apply to another one. But I think some of the principles that you have in this law are quite important, which is basically housing associations are in there for the long term, so they're not interested in making any short-term profits. So I think the system that allows an association to run a business, to run an efficient and economic business over the long term, I think needs the right regulations and the right legal framework. If that's going to be a different one in Spain or in Barcelona, I guess so. So I don't think it can be reproduced immediately, but I think there are some elements that might be applicable. Also, for example, in terms of the funding mechanisms. In some countries you have public grants. In Austria you have public loans, which is also a lot better for sort of public finances, which can be an issue in terms of EU regulations. So I think that could be something that could also work in Barcelona.